Welcome back to another episode of the Backdoor Cut with me, Peter Rice, Owen McCabe and Darragh McGurn. Darragh, Owen, great to have you again. We'll go to Owen first. I know we're after another couple of losses. People will be hoping that we get a win on this podcast soon, but how are we feeling, Owen, this Monday? How we got over it, and are we focused on next weekend now, finally?
Well, if you had asked me yesterday, it was ready to kill dead things, but nah, I've settled down a wee bit today. Darragh got a good seeing too, and a bit of time on my own just to sort of think things through. Just obviously as a player, you want to be playing you want to be winning every game, you want to be playing every minute, and when you're getting beat, then you're not. Series coming on there. When you're getting beat, then you're not getting minutes. Like, you can be, you're not the nicest person to be around. Like, so. Frustrating as a team. Like, it's frustrating because it was a game we could have won. Like, we had 3 or 4 goal chances, and I feel if we had converted 1 or 2 of them, it would have been a completely different story. Even one of them, I think the way the game was going at the start, we had a serious amount of momentum and just weren't taking our chances. So that was a bit frustrating, but overall disappointing because it's, but we can't get promoted now, and that was obviously the goal at the start of the year.
I think this is a useful one to go into for players that are kind of in a similar position. Like, how do you deal with that when you're obviously frustrated because you want to be playing and you believe that you're the best option, but obviously it's not up to you. So when you're like a Briar and you're pissed off after not getting the opportunity to play, how do you action or act on that to maybe not take it out on the people around you?
Yeah, for me, it's probably keeping my mouth shut for as long as possible until I have time to sort of digest it, because if I had said something, I'd probably end up saying something I would have regretted. So it was yesterday, it was top up runs, straight into the shower, and then straight home, and then just sort of try and process it, talk it through, like write out a couple of things in the journal, like, and just sort of get whatever's in my head on the piece of paper. And then today, sort of revisit again, see what's going through my head, and then probably nice to have a bit of a cool off period before going back into training tomorrow night. Like, so, again, just a bit of time to go about my day today, process it, and then see where I'm at tomorrow. So, even waking up first thing this morning to where I am now is like a different, completely different version. So, I suppose in your head, you're probably as you say, you're the most important player, you're the most important person in the world. But when you realise, like, you look at how the team got on, team went relatively well, and the lad I'd be sort of looking to get in ahead of, we're going very well. So you can have no real complaints really. So it's just about focusing on the inputs then, and focus on what actions you can take to try and get yourself back up the packing order then. And focus on the inputs that are going to get you there. So you can throw the toys at a pram, but it's not really going to get you anywhere.
Do you ever use it as fuel, like, to drive you on?
Yeah, 100%. Like, it was
5 a.m. start this morning.
What? He's like that. The Michael Jordan thing. I do that personally. I was in the mood this morning, like. But no, 100%. Like, if you do take it personally. Like, if you're being overlooked or you're not getting the shout, you're kind of going like, right, well, what do I need to do to get in there? And it's like, right, what do I need to be showing more? Could I be doing more? And then it's like, right, you use that to almost prove yourself again. I don't know, you have to go and prove yourself again. So yeah, you use that as fuel, all right.
You don't change your training today, though. Like,
no.
As in, you didn't do anything differently. You kept that the same. So did you almost put more effort into things outside of football, like your workspace, to just try and drive yourself on?
There's probably more of just like a mental sort of reset more than anything, because it's like, right, you look at the process that you're taking. Like, it could be in the past, you might have gone, right, I'm going to go and bust my balls here and do a fucking mad training session to get me ahead. But in reality, like, it doesn't work like that. Probably when it was maybe 16, 17, 18, I would have went and done something like that. But then it just digs you in the bigger hole. And if you're looking to come back and training and make a statement, and you're fucked from the weekend from doing a mad session, like, it just puts you further down the packing order. You're not gonna perform. So I think it was more of like a mental thing rather than actually physically doing anything different. I think even just the appetite for going into training then is just a wee bit better, whereas sometimes you're kind of going, right, I have to try and get myself up for the session, because not like there's a lot of sessions you're going into, you're kind of go, right, just try get into this one, get started, get going. Whereas today I was like chomping at the bit to go and get into a session. So the session is the same as it would have been, regardless if I had played or didn't play. But it just gives it that wee bit of, it's just an easier session to get through, nearly, or easier to get through the session.
Great advice for young players there, to maybe take it personally, but not so personally that you go absolutely smashing yourself and busting your balls, as you say. One man that must have been busting his balls all day, because he hasn't stopped yawning since we got onto the podcast, is Darragh McGurn. Darragh, how are you getting on? What were you up to today that had you so tired?
Just a busy man. Hey, got up 5 minutes before McCabe did at 5:03 a.m. It should be McCabe who's yawning.
Winners list.
I was actually just thinking to myself there, why the fuck am I so tired? Just hope not long home from the gym, so yeah, probably been a busy enough day, I suppose, with check-ins with the gym session. So it's impossible to probably work as hard as McCabe, to be fair. So there must be a secret to what he's doing. I'm not too sure. He's getting up at 5 a.m. But that's been the height of my day, to be honest.
McCabe isn't showing on his story that he's sleeping from 9 a.m. then till 3 p.m. again.
That used to be me in the gym. I used to get up in the morning, 5 o'clock, 6 a.m. session, home in bed for 9 for 2 hours. But no, flat out today. 3 coffees in me, flat out. I've too much energy after yesterday. I did a big carb load there and didn't get a minute, so I'm fully energy this week.
Yeah, the top up runs don't really do it. That's actually an interesting topic to go into, because I was often asked that by players in regards to if they were going to be a substitute, what should they do for carb loading? Like, you kind of have to expect that you're going to play, don't you, Darragh? And then afterwards, I know definitely at club level, they're not going to really want to go out and do the runs necessary to get some quality of work done. But it probably is a necessity if you want to be at the level that the starters are at, or the starting 15 are at.
I think if you're someone who's nearly guaranteed to be topping up after training or after the games, I mean, with extra runs, then it probably makes sense to just do the carb load anyway. And, you know, there always is a small chance someone might get injured in the warm-up as well, and you could be thrown in late. So I suppose it's a good way to just mentally prepare for the game. What you may find, though, if you are someone who's regularly on the bench and you're carb loading every single week, year on year, or week on week throughout the season, your body composition just slowly, progressively gets worse throughout the league. So I think that thing about topping up with the runs after the games is key, I suppose, towards that. And I suppose it'll help you to get the most out of those runs as well, and get a decent volume up and stay in good condition throughout the league campaign if you are someone who's probably not getting much minutes.
I remember my players used to look at me like I had 2 heads as well when I suggested that we do our gym sessions after our home games. They're going straight for a couple of pints usually, but like realistically, the time that's furthest away from the next game is directly after the game you've just played. And if you haven't participated, then you can go a little bit harder, you can do a little bit more volume in the gym, and get a little bit more out of it. And then as a result of doing that, potentially you might be able to take Monday fully off as a rest day, or if it's a Saturday game, take Sunday fully off and just reset, completely refill your cup, as they say, and then be fully recovered to go and push on Monday. Is it something that we see at the inter-county level at all, Eoghan? Do you think it is something that could work in season when you don't really need that much exposure to the same volume of training in the gym, but you still need some exposure to those movement patterns and those velocities to obviously reduce your risk of injury and retain the qualities that you've built up?
Yeah, as in the players that maybe haven't played a full game? Or
I would suggest both. I would say you just modify the volume maybe for the players that have played, so they still get some exposure to the movement patterns that everybody else is, but it gives them an extra full day for recovery potentially. And it just means that even though we know a game day is going to be a high day, you're making your high days harder. I've kind of stolen it from NBA, from basketball, where they play far more games, so they have to do their strength training on the same day as a game, and usually they'll do it straight afterwards.
Yeah. It makes sense. From my own personal experience though, if I was told to go into the gym after playing, if I played a full game, 60, 70 minutes, I'd be like, not a hope am I going into the gym. But I do get, if I played a half and then did a few runs and then went into the gym, I would be all for it. But yeah, I think like going by how your body feels after sort of 70 minutes of playing, 70 plus minutes of playing, like it's the body's pretty shook as it is. So in my head, like getting food in, probably trying to stay away from the paints if you're looking to recover. That's going to be the biggest thing. Like you're already sort of dug in the deep enough hole. I think I would maybe pull back on it, but I do see how beneficial it would be. And it makes a lot of sense. Like there's times where even if you do a big session on a Sunday and then say maybe you're in the gym on the Monday and you're trying to get ready for Tuesday session again, like the turnaround from sort of Sunday to Tuesday can be tight enough as it is without a session thrown in there on the Monday. So yeah, I do see how it would be beneficial.
We probably struggle to get McGurn out of the gym at all though if we were to do that, would we there?
I wouldn't agree. Like after a game, I think that's a ridiculous time to. From my experience, I've tried to do a heavy running session and then go and lift heavy in the evening, and like I can feel my legs literally cramping up, and I think you're just wasting time and you're overemphasizing how important that side of things actually is. I agree with certain maybe robustness if you're someone who I suppose maybe have a history of hamstring injuries, maybe something like that. Certain exercises might be helpful, maybe 10 minutes of work after a session or after a game, maybe. But after a 70-minute game, asking lads to go into the gym, I don't think we can compare it to NBA because it's two completely different demands in terms of the load outputs, in terms of the distance covered, in terms of the high speed running. I think all them factors have to be taken into account as well.
I think there's value in it, but I would say that like you're definitely not doing more than, I would say, 20 minutes. And I would say that the goal wouldn't be improvements, it would be more maintenance and, as you said, more robustness focused. I think like you could get a decent amount of accessory work done and just blast yourself in the areas that need to be hit. But like I would say it's minimal effective dose is the overall goal. I know that a lot of soccer players practice it as well, professional soccer players in the Premier League, where they might go in and they do the minimum viable program. So they might do 4 exercises or 5 exercises and they might just do 1 to 2 sets on each exercise. And I would say the goal isn't to obviously drive on your max outputs at all. It's just to retain what you've built up over the preseason. And like you find yourselves in an interesting position now where like it is the league and obviously everybody's really focused towards the championship all of the time, but you still could consider it in season. Have there been many changes to year programming in the gym over the last month, say, Darragh, or the last couple of months as opposed to the preseason? Has there been a major reduction in volume? Obviously it's an interesting perspective where you are because you're still in your preseason because you're rehabbing at the moment.
Yeah, I suppose from my context, it's pretty different. But I suppose I speak for probably players that are within the middle of a league campaign. So volumes definitely come down, throughout that league campaign. Because if you just keep hammering the same volume you're doing in preseason, as well as the volume spiking on the pitch, overall the volume or the load is going to be too high and just going to pick up injuries. So, intensity would still be quite high. As you mentioned, you're still trying to get that stimulus in of strength and robustness at some stage during the week. Some weeks obviously there's shorter turnarounds than others. Some weeks you might only have 6 days, so it can be a wee bit trickier to try and fit that in when say you're going Sunday to Saturday. You want to get a train on the Tuesday. Sometimes that session might go to Wednesday and do a wee bit. But again, it depends week to week how it's different for certain players in the squad. But overall, I suppose volume definitely reduces, and it's more about, as you mentioned, minimal effective dosage. And then sometimes you might double up with pitch and gym if you're trying to get a bit of power work in or something. That's another useful way, I suppose, of going with the high-low model that gives players an extra day, I suppose, to recover between games.
When do you chase a little bit more volume within the season then, Eoghan? Can you get away with doing a minimal effective dose for the duration of the season? Obviously, the goal of the minimal effective dose is to do the minimum requirement to actually drive on a higher level of adaptation. But like, if you're constantly just doing the minimum effective dose for maintenance, is there a risk involved with that for an inter-county player?
Yeah, you would. The way the season's going, like, it does lend itself. Most people are sort of have an idea of when things are happening, when the breaks are coming up, and you can kind of like plan in, right, we're going to push a wee bit here, we get the next bit of work done here. And the coaches will be pretty nailed in with that as well. They'll know when to sort of push and when to pull back. So yeah, I do feel that there are opportunities where you can hammer things a wee bit more. And there are times to sort of switch up the approach when, you know, like I'm even thinking back to the club season a couple of years ago, when I sort of used like the Sunday as like one of my big high days. We would do a club session in the morning, and then I'd be straight in the gym after and like hammer that, like hamstrings, groins, calves. We get a good seeing through, a lot of eccentric work in there, and then you'd have the rest of Sunday, all day Monday, all day Tuesday to sort of be ready to go again for Tuesday evenings training. So it's about sort of changing the approach and sort of almost not changing the approach, still focus on what you need to focus on, but trying to get doses in when you can. But for the most part, when you look at the sort of training residuals and how long it takes for things to drop off, you can sort of just keep hitting things, and you're sort of going to keep them topped up. But I think when you do get the chance to maybe go for it, and just to sort of push things a wee bit, it's a nice sort of change and sort of freshness, I suppose, as well. Rather than just going like it's less monotonous, I suppose. Adds a wee bit of space to it as well. So when you do get the chance to push, go for it. Probably from a player standpoint, when you know that you have a couple of days rest and you know that you can afford to be sore for a couple of days, without having to be ready to go for a big session again a couple of days later. Yeah, I think a lot of players are tuned in as well, where they know, right, I keep myself tipping over as long as you're bringing that intensity to those sessions, even though the volume's pretty low. I think players are pretty tuned into that, but so they don't. I think we are definitely coming away from where people feel like they just need to be beasted all the time, but I do think there is value in it of like getting a good session in where you just you hit a good bit of volume, and you are maybe a bit sore afterwards, but they're few and far between throughout the year. Like,
I think the key thing that you've touched on there is intensity being a key factor, and potentially in the past, in the GAA at least, as you've said, there was an overemphasis on volume. It's amazing what you can get and what you can achieve by driving that intensity up and being consistent with it, even if it is the minimal effective dose, Darragh. Like, do you have any key ways that you try to assess, okay, am I actually pushing the ceiling here, even if I'm only completing 1 to 2 reps on the pitch or 1 to 2 sets in the gym of this exercise? How do you assess whether you've really strove to drive that intensity up as high as you possibly should be driving it?
I suppose you're comparing yourself to your loads probably before the volume on the pitch picked up. So for example, if I'm in doing front squat, I nearly always have a number in my head for which is like my, I suppose, 3 rep max, or close to it, maybe 80-90% of that. And if I was going in to do 3x3 or 2x3, I'd nearly always, I'd try and maybe hit that for 1 or 2 sets of it. In terms of on the pitch, I don't know, is there anything specifically you're thinking about there in terms of what I'm trying to hit in terms of speeds, or in terms of loads, in terms of high speed running?
Yeah, like it generally would come down to probably your outputs in relation to your max speed, like, because that's probably more measurable than anything in regards to change of direction. Do you assess like yourself after a sprint in terms of RPE, or do you go straight to the GPS and look for the like physical metric of, did I hit a certain percentage?
I find GPS numbers can be very up and down, and it's very like, some days you can go out and you can go RPE, 10 out of 10. You went max out for 30-40 meters, and you're like, geez, I'm bound to have hit a PB there. I'm bound to be within 0.2, 0.3, and you go and you look and you'd be way down, or you'd be you'd hit more than you thought you did. So there's so many different factors when it comes to max speed, like how soft the ground was, if there was a breeze, how fresh you actually are. If you're in a race with someone else, that'll always drive numbers up. So I find it very hard to compare. I'll rarely actually. I usually just go off RPE there in terms of what I want to actually get out of that, and not be too worried about what number it gets. It's nearly just a bonus what I hit. Not that that's been too relevant over the last year. I had the opportunity to do that. And then I suppose with high speed running, it's something you'd nearly always be monitoring. And something I'm probably quite dialed in with at the moment in terms of monitoring what loads I'm actually hitting on a weekly basis to try and I suppose get the level up there towards the level I suppose that lads were hitting in pre-season, or so that I suppose I know I'm close to that level. I know I'm not far off it when I'm returning back to play.
It's probably something useful to go through though, just for our younger listeners and actually our adult listeners as well, what you just touched on there, Darragh. Was it a mistake that Bodie made when you were younger, like correlating effort with the speed that you hit and then just trying to absolutely push as hard as you can to hit a higher speed? And is that something that the two of you have maybe learned from working with Alan over the last while, is you can run just as fast, if not faster, by relaxing a little bit? We'll go to Darragh first because obviously you were the one who brought it up.
I think it's definitely something I learned the hard way, and I was actually just going back over it today in terms of looking through my Stat Sports GPS from back last November when I did end up getting injured, and I was up high nines and hit 10 for like 2 weeks, and I remember in those sessions, like I just kept running back over the phone, looking at the speed, go back out, running as fast as I possibly could for 50 meters back over, and it was doing me no favors because I was just trying so hard to hit speeds, and it was probably how I was moving was just like probably unbelievably inefficient. So I was far from relaxed, is what I would say anyway. And I suppose that just leads to issues in terms of picking up overuse injuries and stuff like that, because your loads are going to be higher. So it's something I actually have learned the hard way, and it's something I work with my own athletes quite regularly on now, is how important it is to actually run efficiently, to run, as you say, relaxed, and then over time building that, and you will end up, I suppose, hitting higher speeds across a period of time when you actually learn how to run or learn how to sprint. So I suppose it's a positive in terms of I'm a lot smarter now in terms of that side of things, because I've went through the shit.
Does it apply to games, on? Like, sometimes if you're pissed off, like you were yesterday, and you go out to do a session or you go out to play a game, do you find you end up expending more energy because you're tense?
At times, I do feel. I did a lot of work with sort of like mental performance coaches to talk about sort of light and dark energy. And there's times where that dark energy is really useful and it can really fuel you, and you can almost go to dark places and you fucking find this new level. But then if you're always running on that, it does take a toll on you long term. Like I do find, like, even going back to the runs yesterday, there was times I was going, fuck it, I just want to stay without on ahead. I'm glad that like 150 meters in, then we're doing a couple of 300s, and I got like 100. I got halfway through it. I was just like, holy fuck, I'm hanging in here. Yeah, it just reminded me, like, it's like, right, just relax through it, like focus on the quality, but the good thing is that when you do have when you have a session where you can focus on that, like, you should be using your conditioning as practicing your back speed running at a slower speed. Like, that's the beauty of tempo runs, because it is submax. Like, you can focus on those quality, or that sort of technique, but at a slower speed. I was able to focus on that, and then even in games sometimes, like when you're making a burst back or you're making a burst forward to support the play, if you're not on the ball, you can almost think about it in your head for a second. You might just think of one or two things might come to your head, like fucking toes up, or get the, like, drive the arms, or like whatever way you're moving. One that always stands out to me, I might have missed this one of the episodes, one that always stands out to me was like Darragh Walsh chasing after Jack McCaffrey, I think it was. And he knew, like, right, he's getting to that 13 to that 21, and you can just see him just putting the head down and going for it. Like, so I think when you get those sort of opportunities where you're just almost, you have to make a straight line run, and you though you have to get from A to B as quick as possible, you can almost focus on it a wee bit more rather than, if you're looking for where the ball is or where the man is and you're sort of changing direction every couple of seconds. It does give you a chance to think about it, and chances are when you are thinking about it, you're probably going to move that wee bit better and that wee bit more efficiently as well.
One thing that we touched on last week briefly, and then we were speaking about something similar prior to starting this episode, is speed of transition and chasing back. And is it something that is a conscious thing in your head, do you reckon, when the team is breaking, Darragh? Is it something you've ever thought of, is, okay, I want to run with decent form here because I want to hit a high speed because we have a chance of a breakaway here and we have a chance of a score? Or maybe you don't find yourself that far back in the field, you're up the top with the hand up in the air going, lads, I'm up here.
I'll not be honest, or be honest, there is times when there is that big break on and you take off and it's nearly in your head, fuck, I'm about to run 50 metres here, may as well just go absolutely full tilt here when I have the opportunity. I wouldn't say I'd be thinking, right, let's run real efficiently here, or let's run with proper form. It's more so let's run fast as fuck, and then we nearly get into that rhythm. But I had mentioned it before. It kind of happened in our own game of the weekend there when Armagh turned us over, and you can see a few of us just absolutely taking off for 50 metres. And I was chatting to one of the boys, and it was in his head he was just like, I'm gonna hit a max speed here, definitely, and he did. So sometimes it can go through your head when, I suppose, sometimes you're the ball's that far away from you and you're just, I suppose, to get back to the team, you may as well take off for 60 metres as fast as you possibly can, because there is still a chance you're going to get back and the ball might get slowed up and you might get there and actually make a difference. So you may as well, I suppose, go full tilt.
Are there any teams that are particularly strong at that one, do you think, that have stood out to you so far this year?
Probably Darragh and Dublin have been the top ones. I watched the highlights. I only saw the highlights of the Tyrone Carey game, and there seemed to be actually a couple of occasions both teams. Again, it was that classic case: if you go up, you turn the ball over, and then because everyone's sort of defending, then everyone sort of breaks at the same pace. So I saw Tyrone Carey. There was a few good examples of both sides there, but I think Dublin and Darragh are probably the leading the way with that at the minute. They're this year anyway. Just have a scroll down your Instagram and see plenty of examples.
Do you think that Dublin's style is a perfect foil for Derry's style, Darragh?
Probably. You see, Dublin, I think I was talking to someone about this today. Dublin just have all the tools to play absolutely every single possible way, and they've nearly mastered playing every single possible way over the last 6-7 years, so they can mix it with anybody. And I think that's going to be nearly the one team that Derry are going to have to bring something new to the table if they're going to beat the Dubs, in my opinion, anyway, because they're nearly the one team that they can break down a mass defence, no problem. And if the other team's playing that way, they can just bring everyone back as well, and they're well capable of defending that way. So, It's a hard one. It's a hard one if you're coming from Derry's perspective. What do you actually do? I think anyway you need to bring something different to the table in terms of your actual approach. So it'll be interesting to see that they both get to a league final as well, and what actually happens in that. I suppose a repeat of last year's Division 2 final as well. I think Derry will be all guns blazing for that and trying to get a league title to get, I suppose, figure the Dubs out a wee bit and try a few different things as well. I know Derry are missing 6 or 7 starters from that first 15 that lined out at the weekend, so it's hard to really take a massive amount from that. But the Dubs looked absolutely next level, from what I seen.
And they're able to rotate as well, is the other thing that probably is in Dublin's favour, because they have such a strong panel that the lads coming in off the bench are just as good as the lads that are on the field, which is obviously a frustrating one to play against. I know every team will say that that's the case, but there's a number of players on Dublin's bench that potentially, if they were playing for other counties, they'd be within a shout of getting All-Star nominations later in the year. Although we did see what we've been saying for the last while, at the weekend, Shane McGuigan is just lights out, isn't he, Owen?
Yeah, he's class. Just every time you looked at Darragh getting the score, it just seemed to be him on the end of it. Like, he's just so consistent. Just what did he hit? What did he finish up with? Like 7, 8, 9 points. 7 points, yeah. Like that's just a normal day out for him. Like, isn't it?
Every game, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
basically every game, it's at least 5 or 6. Anyway.
The standard of some of the scores were what stood out though. Like, it's just like himself and Clifford at the weekend just wrapping the foot around it from miles out and just curling it in over it. Just so impressive to watch. A tough one for Tyrone down in Fitzgerald Stadium as well against Kerry. But are we seeing now where we reckon championship is going to go later in the year? Like, are the teams starting to find their flow a little bit more? Are we seeing that Kerry and Dublin are going to be right up there again? And obviously Derry, like, it's just a minor blip there, but they're going to be thereabouts as well, Darragh. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I fancy Derry to go on there and win their final 2 games.
You're gonna call him for the All Ireland there?
No, Jesus. I don't think they'll be far away. Is that what you asked me there about the All Ireland, Pete?
No, well, just in terms of, are we starting to see the cream rising to the top, and the teams that are going to be going well at that stage of the year, are they the teams that are going well currently, or is there anybody else that stands out to you as potential All-Ireland winners?
I think you can't really rule Galway out based off the last couple of years. I think they still have, like, how many, 3, 4 starters to come back in. I don't see Mayo contending, to be honest. I think the top 3 at the minute, obviously Kerry, Derry, Dublin. I'd be very surprised if the All Ireland didn't come out of those 3. From what I said, I think Galway are the next best after that in terms of they might challenge, but I don't think they'll win All Ireland. But yeah, I suppose the three teams that are at the top are probably already at a really good level, and I suppose that's probably because of the split season and how close championship actually is. Those teams have played close to their best 15 for most of the league, so they're obviously taking it quite seriously. And then they just have maybe a couple more players to come in and then top that up. It was an interesting, I suppose, one from Derry at the weekend that they did completely rotate the team. And the more I think about it, the more it probably was a good idea, because I suppose it got a lot of their, I suppose, 15 to 23 players good solid game time against the best team in the country, and a lot of them did quite well as well. So yeah, they still have Price to come back in to strengthen up that team, and then they've obviously got the boys who played at the weekend to come in off the bench for the rest of the year, because they've built up that confidence that they can actually play at that level as well. So I do think those are the 3 that are going to contend, I suppose, and it's actually quite hard at the minute to pick it, but from what I can see, I think the Dubs are probably the favourites.
We're speaking a lot about form here now, Owen, but, like, is there any team there that if they fire, you reckon they could put it up to those 3 teams that Darragh has mentioned?
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking that when you need to get you back first. I was just thinking that before you said, like, in terms of the way things are going at the minute in the league, like, yes, you're going to have those same sort of 3-4 teams up around the top, but, like, you just can't rule anything. You just can't rule anything out when it comes to the championship. Like, you probably look at the last couple of years and you look at teams who are getting this sort of semi-final stage and could be in, like, with a shout of winning. It's mad. Like even Armagh last year got relegated, and where did they end up? Was it quarterfinal penalties? So, like, it's mad. Like, it's like literally anything can happen. It's the way sort of draws will go and all the rest of it, and the way whatever way results go that way. Fucking stating the obvious here, like, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just that was the first thing came into my head. It's just like, you can't. I do expect Kerry Dublin to be sort of thereabouts, but yeah, like, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Tyrone come get some sort of result. I don't think they'll go the way they're going at the minute. I think they're 2 up and down, but I wouldn't be surprised if they cause a big upset later on in the summer. Like,
we've seen glimpses from them Yes. No, but in fairness, that's who I was thinking as well, Darragh. Like, we have seen glimpses from them that they have it in the locker.
Yeah.
It's just like a
They
bit
have
of
the quality, like.
consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the quality. You just wonder, do they have the defensive tools to stop Bakary and Dublin? I don't know if they do at the moment. They're quite a bit of inexperience in that back six. Maybe they've one or two. McKernan was obviously missing at the weekend. One or two others, but like, I just don't know if they have. Maybe in 1 or 2 years when those lads get a bit more experience.
And it's something you said about Mayo as well earlier in the years. Like, they have the quality, but I think I remember you saying there that it's potentially one scorer that they're missing. But then you look at Ryan O'Donoghue at the weekend and he's playing unbelievable out of his skin. Like, if he steps up and he plays like that for the entire championship, do you still rule them out, Darragh, because you think they just are not up to it?
I just think Ryan O'Donoghue's unbelievable. Like, for the size of him, he's fantastic. But when you come up against the top teams, I think it's easier to take a Ryan O'Donoghue out of the game than it is to take a Clifford out of the game, simply because of his size. Some people might think that's completely mad, but I've just seen it over the last couple of years. Like, I've seen that happen with Mayo too often, and I just think if there was another forward there who was stepping up and was just as much of a threat as Ryan O'Donoghue, then it would take a bit of heat off him, and then it wouldn't really matter which of them shows up, and you just need one of them to probably kick you 7-8 points in the game. So when you look at, obviously, Tyrone, you've got Canavan, you've got McCurry. You look at Kerry, you've got Clifford, you've got Sean O'Shea. You look at Dublin, you've got Conor Callahan, you've got Kieran Kilkenny, Brian Fenton, all these boys chipping in. When you look at Mayo, do you have that? I just don't think you do. Like,
what about Galway then? Because you're saying that they can't be ruled out. Like, I don't know if you saw their highlights, but like, it was like League One in England. The 3 goals that they got, it was around the box, and it's up, down, around, and then it's in the back of the net. Like, obviously they have Shane Walsh and Comer, but like, is that who they're relying on realistically, do you think, when you say players coming back in?
Yeah, I'm thinking of Shane Walsh and Comer for sure. But then, like, they do have a few others that can kick scores. Like, if Matty Tierney's come on a lot in the last number of years, is always a scoring threat. Do they have much more? I'm not sure. You're relying on Shane Walsh to have a big game, especially if they get deep into the competition. You're probably relying on him to, I suppose, kick the lights out in games. So I think that's why I'm unsure if they can actually win in All Ireland, because I don't know if he can do that for 3 games in a row. Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard one with Galway. Like, I don't know if they've blooded enough new players.
And people are probably going to get frustrated with us because we're talking about championship already and we're still in the height of the league. Like, if we're to revert back to league and I talk about your respective divisions, who are your picks to go on and win it now, with obviously a win for both Antrim and Fermanagh a little bit outside of your reach, let's say? Eoghan, we'll go to you first. Who's the pick for Division 3, with obviously Westmeath and Down flying up towards the top, like, but not as much being talked about them, I suppose, as you would expect, given the way that they're playing and the way they're performing?
Yeah, I think I was chatting to Johnny Davis there, Down's S&C coach today. Like, he's saying they play Westmeath next weekend. Going by like the 2 teams, they're both unbeaten so far. They're like obviously deserving to go up. From what I saw against Down and from what I saw against Westmeath, I do think Down will go on and win the division. Like, I think they'll just looking at the depth. I know Westmeath, like, they did have a lot of boys unavailable there yesterday, and they have had, obviously, hasn't I don't think he's played throughout the whole league. And so even Luke Loughlin there was on the sideline. There's a few other boys missing too. Like, so I think when they're another team actually in the championship could cause a few more upsets. You looked at them last year, probably should have been Tyrone, should have been Armagh. So like when they get their firing all cylinders, they'll be very good. Like, so, yeah, I think that probably shows a good team as well when they're not at full strength and they're still going unbeaten. There's obviously depth there, and the players can come in and do a job for them. So not fair play to them. I do think the way they have been going and the way the two teams have been going, I do think Down will be too strong for them though, until they maybe get panelled.
Darragh, what do you reckon then? Is Jimmy, has any chance to win at any more matches this year? And then do you reckon that Donegal, it's like Donegal for the league, or are you going by the weekend? Do you think Armagh might have a chance in there as well?
I think Armagh definitely have a chance, 100% of winning the league. But I think Cavan are still going to have something to say about that. It's a massive game between Cavan and Armagh. From what I seen at the weekend, I wouldn't be surprised if Armagh, or if Cavan turned Armagh over in the next game. I think that's the next game anyway. Donegal obviously are more or less in a league final now at this stage. But again, I suppose it's putting Cavan and Armagh then who goes to that. I actually am not sure when I think of the two teams who impressed me though. It probably was Donegal, obviously, because they ran riot in the second half against us. But defensively, I thought Armagh were very solid at the weekend against us. We didn't create a massive amount of chances. I do think Armagh will probably still end up turning over Cavan, and it'll be an Armagh Donegal final, which is another hard one to call, I suppose. Probably go maybe Donegal in that.
And then obviously a couple of big fixtures for your respective teams in the next week. Like Bodie probably, to be sure of safety, need another win. We'll go to Darragh first, to stay on you, Darragh. With the Louth fixture, like, how do you envision that one going, and what do your lads need to get absolutely right to get a result down in RD?
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute dogfight, realistically. Both teams need a win, realistically. Like, if Louth turn us over, then we're going to be massively up against it in terms of trying to stay up then, and vice versa. So I suppose both teams are just gonna. It's just like any game, you're gonna have to get right. It's simple things. You're gonna get kickouts right. You're gonna have to get your matchups right. You're gonna have to, I suppose, come with a game plan. I suppose to stop their key forwards, and they're gonna be doing the same against us. I think kickouts are a massive thing in GAA at the moment, and I think a lot of games are decided, I suppose, off who can, I suppose, come out on top in that regard, because it gives you more possession, it gives you more opportunities to create scores, and then it's about your execution after that. So I don't think, I've never played in RD, so I don't really know what the pitch is like, what the conditions are like, but I know for a fact it's going to be an absolute dogging match, and one I'd be confident we're going to come out on the right side of.
You've said that every week though, haven't you?
I'm back on the voice of the health.
Yeah.
What the fuck did you gonna say?
Yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah, I know. And you've a couple of tough fixtures coming up. You've Westmeath next, isn't it? And then Clare after that, like.
Just got beat by Westmeath yesterday there.
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry.
Clare away, yeah.
You just talking about that for 10 minutes.
I know, yeah. It's early morning here, lads. Give me a break. It's one of the early mornings.
We've Clare away in 2 weeks' time. It was meant to be St. Paddy's Day, but there's a parade on in Ennis, and they were trying to get the game after the parade on St. Paddy's Day, so it was like fucking 4 or 5 o'clock. And everyone was like, not a hope. Like Andy Warsaw was going, not a hope. He's looking to get back up the road for pints. So yeah, we're on the Saturday. Obviously 2 weeks now. It's probably nice to get the 2 weeks. Like as I was saying earlier, like, it's disappointing that we didn't get the result yesterday to still be in a bit of a promotion hunt. There's a few injuries and a few knocks that some lads picked up, so it gives them a chance to get them right before the next game. And then the big thing is we still want to. We've lost 3 games in the bounce now, so you want to get a bit of momentum back. You want to get a couple of good performances, because although yesterday I feel we did perform better than what we had done, and again, it was in glimpses. Like, there's been no real performance this year where we've gone, fuck, we've been the dominant side, even in the wins. We were good for parts, but then we also let teams back in there. Even McKenna Cup, same sort of story. So we just want to get back to hitting those sort of heights that we know we can and getting a bit of consistency of performance. So performance first and foremost, and then obviously if we perform, we'd be confident that we can get a result when we perform on our day. Like, so it's just about getting that right. Like, that's the big focus.
I was looking at hurling fixtures. That's what I was doing, and I got mixed up. But a bit of a brain fart, apologies there, but hopefully Antrim can go and get a win, and hopefully Mr. McCabe isn't up the walls at 5 a.m. the following morning having that featured. One thing I did want to touch on, lads, because every other podcast has been touching on it, obviously it was apparent in the Sunday game as well, rule changes. And I thought Tommy made a great point on the GAA pod that potentially we're always trying to put more rules in, and maybe it should be a case that we should be taking rules out, and or just making more stipulations around the rules that are already there. He was talking about the policing of the tackle and how it's very up to the referee's discretion in what they interpret a tackle as being, whereas if it was more clearly defined, players would know what to expect. We would know what a foul is and what isn't a foul. What do we reckon? What would be the one rule that you would bring in to the GAA? And if there is any, and what is the one rule that you'd take out? Owen's going to be black cards because he's a cornerback.
Up until last year, I never had a black card. I've got 2 in 1 year. What would it take out? I think the clarity around, like, just having it just in black and white. Like, yes, there is that sort of discretion, and I do know that players do technically get around things. Like, they'll, like, you can pull a jersey and the player stays on his feet and you can get a yellow card for it, whereas if you pull someone down, it's a black card. Like, both cynical fouls, but it's just because you're not dragging someone to the ground, you're getting away with it, sort of thing. But yeah, but in some cases you're like, right, you use their advantage. In other cases it's so frustrating when it goes against you. So, but I suppose that's the way it is. Like, I think that's sport at the end of the day as well. Like, I think regardless of what rule comes in, you're probably gonna find a way of, like, working around it. In the past I did think about the sort of 50-meter penalty from AFL. Just sort of, like, if there's any sort of, if it was a cynical foul, if you got a 50-meter penalty, like if it was a free was ball in 50 meters, like, it's a guarantee scored from anywhere in the pitch, really. I do think the one thing that pisses me off is, like, when there's maybe a foul up one end, but it's a yellow card, but if it was down the other end, there'd be a black card. I thought last week, the Dublin game, one of Dublin's penalties, such a soft free, but was a foul, but you would never see it given as a penalty. And then there's so many things, like, if it was a free up one end of the pitch, it'd be a free, but if it's still in the box, play on, it's not harsh enough for a penalty. So I don't know, I guess just the clarity of things. I think referees have like, as much abuse as they get, like, they have a tough time of it, like. So yeah, I think they need to, like, their life needs to get a lot easier.
But there is a thing with referees that there are some referees that are just outstanding, incredibly good, and then at times, because there's not that clarity potentially, as you just said, it's like another ref is reffing a completely different sport, different game altogether. So there's no clarity week to week and no consistency there. But I'm excited to hear what Darragh McGurn is going to say, because I think he's going to have a hot take for us.
Nearly falling asleep here.
I got
I want to, I suppose, talk about the mark, and I suppose if there's anyone a mark would suit, it's a big man. So I'm coming here saying, I'd actually I'd like to change the mark rule. Like, I think it just slows the game down. It's the most frustrating thing in the world to watch, especially when it's against your own team, is when a team just consistently kicks the ball in and just gets a handy mark, and the whole game is just completely slowed down. They take 20 seconds and top the ball with the bar. I think it needs to be changed to from behind the 45 to inside the 21 is a mark, because it's a lot, chances are someone's went up and they've actually fetched the ball, or it's a lot more quality needed to actually produce that. And when a player wins the ball inside the 21, if there's a goal on, they'll go for the goal. But if there's not, if they're out wide or it's been, a challenging position in the pitch, then I suppose you may as well reward them with a kick from a difficult position. But it drives me mad, like a player maybe standing outside the 45 and kicks a diagonal, like lateral ball, 20 yards, and someone catches it and just stops and takes a free kick. It's like, that just wasn't why the mark was brought in, and it's being used constantly now, and it just slows everything down. So that's one that I would change or just completely remove. In terms of rules that I would add, I'm not too sure, to be honest. I don't really think, as Tommy probably mentioned, I think you need to lessen the amount of rules rather than add the rules. I had thought in my head about having to keep so many players inside your own half to try and prevent mass defences. But that's the thing. I think there's too much going on then in terms of what a referee has to do, and you'll end up like, you probably need 2 referees in the pitch for that, and there's just simply not enough resources within club football and within county football to actually deal with that. So yeah, it's probably never going to happen. But the tackle one is frustrating to watch as well. How different it is between different referees in terms of how it's ref. Like the game at the weekend there, Darragh in Dublin, was pulling my hair out at times at how he wasn't giving frees for stuff that was just blatant fouls. I don't think we need to get clear on what the tackle is. I think it's fine the way it is. I think you just need better referees. Like, I think like 80% of them referee it just fine, and then you've a few that just referee it completely their own way. Like, that's my opinion on it from watching it. Like,
I knew there was a hot take coming eventually. I was just waiting for it to come out. But like, I get what you're saying, but if there was more clarity around the tackle and around the rules, then we could hold those referees in the 20% potentially to a standard and say, like, look, you're not meeting this standard. That was a foul and you didn't give it.
But what needs to change then? What do you think needs to be different?
I actually was thinking similar to what Owen said there. What drives me mental is how a foul in one area of the field is like of different value to a foul in another area of the field. And I think that rule about a cynical foul, like a cynical foul is a cynical foul. You're stopping an opportunity to break for a scoring opportunity. So whether he's on the ground on his back or whether he's still standing up, it doesn't matter. You're still playing cynically. So it still has to be the same thing. Like, that would be what I would change. And then I think this stuff of keeping people inside and reducing the numbers on the pitch and stuff, I don't really get it. I think we actually underappreciate the sport a little bit. I think the sport has come on a lot in the last 5 years. The kick passing has been successful. We're seeing a lot more kick passes in the last few years than we did previously. It is an interesting one potentially with the mark if they want to retain it. Like you said there, Darragh, what's pissing people off is the kick just aside across the field, and it's just from one part of the field, say outside the 45 inside, and it's going about 10 yards. So if they change that to from outside the 65, the opposition 65, you had to kick it into the far 45, would that change things? And I did actually watch the games at the weekend a little bit differently after hearing the lads think or talk about some sort of a shot clock or a back court rule like they have in basketball. So once you take it past the 45, you can't cycle back out to your own 65. You have to stay in there, essentially. So it's do or die. That's something that I think is interesting. I don't know if it's perfect, but it could be something that they could trial maybe at juvenile level, see how it goes, and then go from there.
Yeah, that's one that actually crossed my mind when I was sitting thinking there. Did you say once it goes inside the 45, it can't come back out past the 45 or past the 65?
Well, either or, I suppose. One or the other. I don't think it makes a difference which one it is.
If there was another line on the pitch, maybe 55 metres out, it'd make life a bit easier.
We're not even going to change the rules, then we're going to change the dimensions of the pitch. Groundsmen pulling their hair out now, left, right, and centre around the country.
I don't know if that'd work, because you'd just put you'd put 15 inside your 45, and then as soon as it comes in, you just swarm them. So I don't think that would work, if I'm being honest.
True, good point. I didn't think about it that way. But could you do it the alternate way, because they're all pretty much inside the 65 anyway? So it wouldn't change things that much that you couldn't now. Well, you can go back to the keeper, but the keeper has to be inside the opposition 65. So you're playing with a little bit more risk.
Yeah, that's probably a better one, 65 then. Mightn't change a massive amount, but I suppose if it improves it by 5%, it's probably worth it.
But that's the thing. It's like all these rule changes for like how that's been like it's been the top of football for 10 plus years, and it's always changing. Football always seems to be changing. Like I don't know, like I'm not the biggest hurling man, like, but I don't know if there's nowhere near as much rule changes as hurling, like, is there?
No, definitely not. But I think you're right as well, Owen. I think we're constantly talking about the rules and how to improve the game and stuff. And like we have seen more kick passing, as I just said, but we don't really know if that's happened as a result of the rule changes or it's just happened. Maybe we should leave it alone for 5 years and see what happens.
That said, it's always going to evolve. Like everything cycles. Like every, you look at the last, from the start of the 2000s, the way football was played then, to then obviously Donegal coming in, and then other teams taking that, and then Dublin. Like it's just every team. I think that's the thing. Like when there's a certain style that's going well and teams are winning with it, somebody has to break it, or somebody has to come up with something to try and get one over that team. And then whenever they get one over, it's like, right, there's the blueprint, and then everyone's sort of trying to replicate that. So I think it's always evolving, but I think if we stop fucking about with the rules, because whatever rules are changed, teams are just going to use, like, they're going to come up with something else or some other way of playing to work around whatever rules are in place. So, yeah, I just leave it be, like, and just stop changing it so much, and we'll be all right.
Two hot takes from two hot men. Legend. That's why you're on the podcast, lads. We want you to be outspoken. We want you to say what you're feeling and what you're thinking. So, great episode again today, guys. Really, really enjoyed it. Hopefully all of you guys enjoy it too. So thanks again for coming for another episode of the Backdoor Cut. Thanks, Owen. Thanks, Darragh.
Goodbye.
Cheers, lads.